first? Who's up who? The guy up first. Who? The guy first base. Who? The guy first. Who is on first? What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? This is Tim Ellerbrook, and I'm with my good buddy, Brian Caplinger, and welcome to this episode of Who's on First. Truth be told, we are recording this Sunday night because we have some stuff coming up Monday, but we're really excited to talk about baseball. How you doing, dude?
I'm good. I mean, every day we get a little bit closer, and so the more spring games out of the way, that means the closer we are to opening day.
Absolutely. It's really fun just talking about baseball, to be honest with you. Nothing exciting is really happening right now at the beginning of the season, or at the beginning of spring training, sorry. And it's fun to see live action, although, man, for most of the teams, it seems like there's never anything to watch. You're stuck to the game day app, but it's fun to see baseball and to talk about it and to get pumped. It's officially March 1st, March 2nd today, and it'll be March 3rd when this comes out, which means we're in the same month as opening day, which means we're closer and closer.
Right.
But first of all, to everybody listening, I just want to say thank you. Really, really excited that we're getting a lot of feedback that people are really enjoying this and getting information and from it. Just want to encourage you, please, on YouTube, throw some comments down. We love to have conversations and maybe throw some topics or something that people, that if you have an idea of something you want to talk about or a player you want us to talk about or like a player that you have questions about, that like why this or that or teams or anything. So yeah, throw some comments down there and subscribe if you don't mind. That'd be awesome. This is really, really enjoyable, and we just want to have conversation with everybody.
Maybe you don't nerd out as much on the stat lines and all the fun stuff as we do, so we can do that for you. So throw some questions our way.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first question, let's talk about a quick recap for I guess it would be the first week of spring. There has been, spring training started last Saturday, so we've had 8 days of games so far. Anything from the first week that you've seen that sticks out to you?
I mean, really 3 quick things. One, I think, and you've probably heard it if you listen to any talk radio or you listen to anything about Cardinals baseball, especially through X and all of that stuff, just the struggles that Gorman's been having at the plate. I mean, he is striking out at a high clip. I know we've talked about this kind of off air quite a bit, and just the fact that Gorman's got a new swing. He's trying to learn that. He's working with Brown. They're trying to dial some things in. So I'm not like alarmed at it, but I do want to see some progress. Good thing was today he smoked a double kind of towards left center in the game. And so, there's some options that maybe he's starting to figure out, being able to use that power there. One, I know you're going to love this. I wasn't necessarily as keen on him at first, but I mean, VS2 is proving that he can be the center fielder that we need. I mean,
right.
He's emerging as a future leadoff. I don't think he's going to take that spot necessarily right away. I think they're going to go back to win just because of how the lineup constructs. But I think what he's been able to do at the plate, not only show a bit of power, but having a hard hit rate. I mean, we talked about it with the one game we watched. It was an out to right field, but he hit a line drive coming off the bat at 105.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's proving that he's starting to see the ball well. Now, again, this is spring. Can that carry over? And as he gets deeper into the spring, more looks, will he be able to kind of continue that with the bat? Because we know his defense plays. Like, I don't want to negate that side. Like, he's going to be an elite potential Gold Glove winning center fielder. The biggest thing for him is learning the bat. And I wanted to argue at first because, looking at the numbers, Ciani was comparable, but so far in the spring, that's not been the case.
Yeah, I am excited to see that you agree with me for the first time, I think, in our whole relationship about a player. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So first of all, let me go back to the Nolan Gorman hit. I think it's a really big deal. It was 103 off the bat. Almost a home run. What was it? A few feet from it. It was 390.
Right.
390 feet, so probably 10-ish feet from being a home run. Hitting the ball hard is always a good sign. Making contact like that is always a good sign. Is he, so before today, I don't have this added because I made this note before, but he was 0 for 12 with 7 strikeouts. Coming into the game on Saturday, is that a problem? In my mind, not right now. I don't really care about that right now. When it gets maybe the last week, we can start asking questions and wondering. But I think with spring training, and especially like you said, his swing was almost completely changed. Not totally, but a lot of change. He's got to figure timing out in live action, with pitchers coming at him, trying to get him out, trying to exploit his weakness, and he's got to figure the timing of that out. Same with Walker, really. He's 0 for 12 as well before the game on Sunday, but he has 7 Ks as well, no walks, but he's hit the ball so hard. Right. He's got like 4 or 5 multiple 105 plus mile per hour hits, and you would take that. They're hit 2 people right now, so he's just operating with some bad luck, but I would take that as a forward progress. He's making contact with the ball. He's hitting it really, really hard. He'll find good luck.
Yeah, I think you're right with Walker on that. The alarming thing for me with Gorman is just the fact that he hasn't hit the ball. There hasn't been a lot of good contact until today. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I hope that's the turnaround, because I think we do need a legitimate left-handed power bat in the lineup. And I think if he can't find that form, then we're going to be searching for something. And then that opens the door, and we're not going to get into it today, but that opens the door. Do we need to move on? And we know the fan base. There's going to be some people that have screamed they should have moved on a long time ago when we could have potentially had some big name pitchers for him.
That was probably just our idea. Nobody else was talking about
that. but I, that's the alarming thing for me and him, with Walker. And again, they're both going to strike out. Like, the strikeouts don't surprise me, especially early in spring. I hope it curves for Walker.
Gorman more specifically, so. Yeah. Walker, I would like to see that go down.
Yeah.
Personally.
I think you're right in that. And then I think the last thing for me in spring that's really kind of excited me a little bit is the early signs for our starting pitchers. They seem to be, on track. Now, again, they're not going through lineups multiple times. Matt's today, I think, did 3 innings, only gave up the 1 run. It was a solo home run. So, that's just something that happens occasionally. Again, his big ticket is not really can he pitch, can he stay healthy, number one. But you're seeing that. You're seeing McGreevy. Fetty's been fairly good for us. We haven't seen Sonny pitch yet, but I know eventually as we get closer to the season, he'll ramp his stuff up. There's been a couple of relievers that have struggled, but they've been able to bounce back when they've had second opportunities.
Yeah, John King got lit up on Sunday. Pretty bad, but I mean, at the same time, you never know if he's trying to work on something.
Right.
It's so early in spring right now that everybody's trying to figure out timing. Everybody's trying to figure out what their stuff is doing pitcher-wise. It's too early to make any decision about anything, except for Victor Scott II. A couple notes that I just want to add to it. Who's the lefty pitcher? Quinn Matthews.
Yeah.
Playing on that. He got sent down to minor league camp on Sunday. That's not abnormal. It was kind of early to me. I would have assumed that he would have gotten one more start before he was going to minor league camp no matter what.
Right.
He's going straight to AAA to start the season. But I was assuming he would get one more start. So they did it kind of early, but I think that's because they're trying to make room for other starters to go longer. So they're running out of innings for pitchers.
100%. Yeah, you're going to start to see a lot of these guys that were non-roster invites.
Yeah.
They're going to end up getting sent back down, one, so that they can get ready with their team for the minors seasons. They want them to get back into the rotation of that type of schedule and flow because their games will start, all of that. And I think, I'm with you. I was surprised a little bit that Matthews went down as quick as he did.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a surprise he's going to be down there. I think it's going to be one of those things. Somebody gets injured, he's going to be the first call up. Like, he's coming back up to the Cardinals if
If
needed.
McGreevy is already up, I would say McGreevy is the first call if he's also sent down.
I don't think McGreevy's going to be sent down. I just for some reason there's a part of me that he's earned his spot on the roster with what he did last year and what we've seen so far in spring. Now, again, if he blows up the remaining of spring in a bad way,
he made some good off-season moves though.
Right, we're gonna we'll revisit that. But right now, I just feel like he's going to be on the roster. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how they flow with the pitching staff from there. But you're 100% right. It's really now just about creating innings for pitchers to really get an opportunity to pitch.
Yeah, we're hitting the second time through of starting rotation. So we're going to see starters start to go 3 innings, then 4 innings as they ramp up. So that means you run out of innings for pitchers that aren't starting at the MLB level. Couple other small notes for me. I'm watching Mason win a lot. He coming into the game on Sunday. So this was before I made these notes before the game on Sunday afternoon. He was 0 for 12 as well, and he's still hitless today. I saw. He's only got 3 Ks though, so he's still not striking out. He's just running into a lot of bad luck. And some of it, you could ask a question like, well, if you're swinging your bat at the fielder, is it bad luck? Some of it I think is bad luck. Some of it is a bad swing of some sorts. I would take that over a strikeout any day, though. Putting the ball in play, you never know. He's walked 1 time, has only 1 attempted stolen base. But I'm watching that a little bit. He didn't do well in spring last year and had an excellent rookie season for the whole season. So I'm not worried about it or concerned about it at all. But I want to see him find some success so when he starts the season, he runs with it. And then, the Victor Scott II thing. So he is 5 for 9 going into Sunday. Only has 2 strikeouts. And you compare that to Gorman's 7 strikeouts. He has 3 walks already, 3 stolen bases, and 2 of his hits are 100 miles an hour plus. One of them is a home run. The thing I'm watching with him, can he continue it?
Right.
His hits so far have pretty much been, his hard hits so far are smoking the fastball, which his swing is super conducive to just hit that thing. But I've started to see after the first few games of success, pitchers are throwing more off speed a lot. So is he going to be able to handle that? If he can only be a fastball hitter, it's going to be tough because he's going to swing a lot more. So I'm interested to see that. If he can take breaking pitches and walk, I'd take that all day.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to, again, I like Ciani. I like what he brings to the table, potentially as like a 4th outfielder for our team, but struggled at the plate again today, did not collect a hit. I think it was 2 strikeouts for him today.
Yeah.
And so, when it comes down to it, what you're looking at really from both of them, for VS2 and Ciani, is whose bat plays.
Mm-hmm. Or who can get on base more often.
Right.
If they're a 200 hitter, but they're a 350 on base percentage, I would take that.
100%. For them, it's going to be more like you were saying about Win as well. Just put the ball in play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to reach on an error with your speed. You're going to beat some things out, those type of things. Just put the ball in play and see what happens. If you're hitting and hitting it well, I can live with a lower average and a higher OBP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he brings a lot of exciting potential to Cardinals baseball with just speed, man. Dude can run. Anyway, we'll stop talking about Cardinals baseball for the rest of this podcast. We've gotten some comments about how we're Cardinals obsessed fans, and while that is completely true, we do love baseball in general. So we kind of just wanted to take some time and talk about the rest of the league in general. So we're going to kind of break this up into 2 sections. We're going to talk about the National League and kind of look at teams and contending teams, as Cardinals fans, who are the 5 other teams that we have to go up against if they, if the 5% chance that they make the playoffs right now, or, what are some NL teams that are sleepers, who, obviously there are teams like the Dodgers that are slated to just run away with the whole thing for the next 50 years. But yeah, so I'm gonna throw it to you, Brian. Who are some teams you're looking at? And we're in this section, honestly, guys, we're just gonna talk and shoot the bull about baseball.
That's it.
So hang on with us.
And try and sit back and enjoy. We'll try not to make this too long, but
Lies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to start it off, I mean, obviously you have to talk about the Dodgers. If you're talking about anybody in contention, I know, it's not fun right now because of what they're doing to a degree, but, from a baseball standpoint, it's still exciting to watch the team that they're putting together.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fun for the rest of the league.
I wish it was my team.
Right.
As a fan.
And it's insane to me. And the moves that they have been able to make going back even to last year. And again, this one's a little bit of a pain point, but picking up Edman and the versatility that he brings for that team and somehow finding a way to be clutch, even though he's not a big time hitter on any level, but he finds a way to do things for his team in those moments. I mean, an OPS of 725. You would not expect that from Edman.
Yeah, probably like league average or slightly above, right?
Right. But, I mean, when you look at it, again, a guy 263 in his career, just under 60 home runs. I mean, but he finds a way to have that big hit in the moment. And so those type of moves that they've been able to do outside of even just the international free agent signings that they've gotten, the free agents in general, whether it's Blake Snell, whomever that's coming over. Right now, you just have to give them a lot of credit. And for me, I think the two big standouts outside of Edman for the Dodgers are really they drafted Will Smith. I think the dude's just a stud catcher. Mm-hmm. He's got a little bit of an ankle issue coming into the season this year, but he was in the game today. I was watching a bit of it before I came over here. And when that guy is right, man, he can change a lineup.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing is just really their starting pitching depth. I mean, because I'm not even talking about their starting five. That's insane in and of itself. You're talking about a guy like Dustin May, who's not even projected to make their starting five as far as in their rotation. And after coming back from the injury that he had and the severe, almost life-threatening injury, I believe it was to his esophagus. And
Dustin May?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I think the dude is shoving in spring right now and has a little chip on his shoulder.
He's just talented. Like, talk about pitchers that are just naturally talented, that guy. The way he can spin the ball.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at, they're projected to start with somebody like him in the bullpen. And that doesn't even mention, the bullpen pieces that they put together in the closers that they could just pick and choose from on a nightly basis, whether that's Scott, Yates,
Trinan.
Yeah, all of those guys are just sitting right there for
Bonda.
this team. And it's kind of disgusting.
Knack. Yeah, you just list these players off and you're like, how is anybody going to hit against? But, I mean, at the same token, fans of other teams, baseball's a weird game. Baseball 100%. Is a weird game.
And, I mean, and we know the Dodgers. The reason why they stocked starting pitching is they have, for whatever reason, cannot figure out how to keep their starting pitching healthy.
I was thinking about that a couple weeks ago because I remember reading a report that their entire pitching coaching staff met during the offseason, like, why are pitchers getting hurt? I kind of think, and I wonder, this is no insider information, but they're so good at developing. Their system is one of the best in baseball. All executives have talked about that, and players have talked about that. I kind of wonder if they're just a team that knows how to push the limit, basically, of the human body, especially when it comes to pitching, which then always puts them on the brink of risk. But they're okay with that because they can take the risk of signing number 8 aces and it'd be like, oh, well.
Yeah, well, we got another one to fill the slot.
Yeah. We'll have 5 aces and 3 waiting.
Right. You just wonder at some point I mean, yes, pitchers are going to want to go there because of what they have to offer.
Yeah.
But at the same token, are they willing to want to take the risk? I mean, obviously, some of the ones that are a little bit up there in their careers, like a Snell. Yeah. I wouldn't say Glasnow's up in his career, but they traded for him. And I mean, obviously,
he's in the middle of his prime, I would say.
Right. Yamamoto and then Roki coming over. They're both younger guys, so we'll see what can hold for them.
The crazy thing is, I don't know how true this is, but on Fangraphs, which is a great resource for any baseball nerds, Roki Sasaki isn't listed on the 40-man, and he just has an NRI invite right now for spring, which for those that don't know, it means not non-roster invite. It means they're not on the 40-man and they got a special invite to participate in spring. Generally, that is reserved for minor league players that are prospects that then they can participate with the big league cup, but they'll be sent down. But that tells me that somebody's got to go off the 40-man for him to be put on it, unless he goes to AAA.
Right, which is a possibility. I'm not saying they want that, because all reports have been out that both him and Yamamoto will start
in
the year
Japan.
in Japan. And so I would venture to say, as they near the end of spring training, they'll open up a 40-man spot and he'll get that nod, whether that be via injury or, having to waive someone to make it happen. And so I fully expect him to be on the roster.
I would agree too.
But
especially since they've come out, like you said, and said, he's starting in Japan.
Right. They want him to. And why not? Like, how great is that for MLB to be able to have two of their Japanese stars start?
The MLB office is calling us like, hey, why is he not on the starting list right now?
Right. They'll make that happen, even if all of a sudden the rosters now can be 41-man rosters instead of 40.
There something to note about them too is with Kershaw. So Kershaw signed a 1-year deal, and his deal had incentives, so he has to reach like inning limits to get paid more. But he's he's close to an MLB record. So I would think two things that happen. The Dodgers know that, obviously, and they're going to want to let him pitch to try and reach it. He's going to want to try and pitch so he can reach it. So that's another starter that, if we're being honest, after the list of 5 and then the other few that are behind those 5, he's really low on the totem pole if you think about the talent. So where is he going to fit in? I mean, you said Gonsolin is listed as a starter right here.
Yeah.
Kershaw would take the place over someone like Gonsolin.
I would think so, or they could potentially go to a 6-man just to give some people some rest and opportunity.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they did that. And that's how you get May too.
Right, because I look at Gonsolin, and again, stud here, so it's like really, trying to decide here. But May, Gonsolin, those guys are kind of interchangeable in my opinion, depending on who's on a run. And if one of them seems to struggle, to the bullpen, the other jumps in. And Kershaw's going to be in that same vein. Somebody goes down, he'll be able to step in. Or if they choose to start with a 6-man rotation, because again, MVP, I just totally lost. Otani, I lost his name. How do you lose that guy's name?
How do we forget about that guy who's supposed to pitch this year?
Yeah, but he's not slated till probably June at the earliest to
throw. I saw something about May or June.
And so so you'll have time to really kind of push Kershaw
He's
in
not
there
even
a little
listed
bit
on their pitching depth list on Fangraphs.
Right. That's how crazy it is.
That's wild. I kind of wonder long term if they keep him from pitching just because his bat plays that much. We're not going to know that until they actually decide it, because they're never going to talk about that.
Right. That'll be a big topic throughout the year.
Yeah.
And so my second team is Atlanta. I think there's just something special about them. I know they're still dealing with some injuries. Strider coming back off of injury, probably not going to be ready to go opening day. We'll see. They may hold him back a little bit closer to April to give him just a little bit more time. Acuna is probably going to be a little bit further out, but some of the moves that they made, picking up Profar and Brian De La Cruz to kind of stem the tide for them, I think we saw what their offense was able to do a couple years ago. And you get Riley back, right? You get Riley back fully healthy to go with Olsen, which, by the way, they were facing off against Stroman today in spring, and they decided to go back to back.
I mean, Yankee fans would know. Is that surprising?
Any Yankees fans can let us know, right? I mean, I don't find it too surprising, but hey, that's just me. And so you start looking at kind of just, they did lose a lot. I mean, they lost Freed. He went to the Yankees, so win for the Yankees there.
Yeah.
They lost a couple players as far as just, as normal rosters would see. But I think the key pickups for them just to replace kind of what they lost, like I said, Profar coming over from San Diego was a big one. Last year, or in 23, they got Kelnick before the 24 season. And so those guys are going to play some key roles early. And I think whichever one of those kind of stays hot, and then also Brian De La Cruz being in the mix on that, is really going to kind of win that left field spot.
Yeah. A couple interesting things for them to me is like when I look at their rotation, since Strider's not even listed right now because he's on the IL, their top three is Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, Schwellenbach.
Yeah.
Man, that's still a really good 3-man rotation. Obviously, you need 7+ pitchers, starters for a full season. But if you look at the playoffs, if they can make it to that, Sale, Lopez, Schwellenbach, then Strider by that time, dude, that is pretty nasty.
Right. And
Sale won Cy Young last year. Lopez had like a sub-2 ERA or something.
Right. And can he repeat that? I mean, that's the big thing. Can he repeat that? We know Chris Sale is Chris Sale. I think as long as he stays healthy, you know what you're going to get from him. And then for me, the wild card is Ian Anderson.
1.99 ERA on Ronaldo Lopez.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's just insane. And Grant Holmes for them, who is listed as probably their number 4 starter right now, is not a slouch. Like I don't want to play that off. Like he has potential to be really, really something special as well for Atlanta, and we kind of know what they can do with pitching.
Mm-hmm.
It dates back, a little bit, but again, you look at what if they're able to start putting some things together, that offense clicks again. Their starting pitching can rival anyone, I think, in the National League. And then on the thing that scares me a little bit will be the depth of their bullpen. Can they hold it together there? They've got some pieces. I don't want to play it off like they're just deplete when it gets to the bullpen, but that's where it is if there's going to be a slant to maybe not so great.
Yeah.
That can be where it happens.
Dude, Iglesias is such an underrated closer, though. He's kind of a workhorse, too, a little bit. Aaron Bummer is a good pickup as well.
Right. And that's why I say I feel like they supplemented themselves well.
Yeah.
But can they put it together?
Yeah.
And again, health is always going to be the big thing. Michael Harris coming back, playing center field. Can he play 130 games for them in center field?
I think you need more from him for that, right?
I mean, you would like more, right? But if you can get, with the additions of what you have, if you can get 130 games out of him, I think you'd be happy.
Yeah, their bench, I'm interested. Their bench right now is De La Cruz, Luke Williams, Nick Allen, and Chadwick Tromp, I think you pronounce his name. But that's before Acuna comes back.
Right.
So which means one of those guys is going to get lost. So it's interesting to see what Kelnick / Profar battle is going to look like, because Acuna is going to take one of those slots.
Yeah.
Which means one of them is going to go on the bench.
Or one of them's going to have to go down or off the team.
Yeah, I would think Luke Williams would be sent down. He's an infield outfield backup. De La Cruz has a major league contract, so he can't go anywhere.
Right.
So I would imagine Profar or Kelnick gets put on the bench, which will be interesting because both those guys are starters.
Yeah, on most teams.
Yeah, on most teams.
Right. Both highly projected. I mean, they were, high draft picks coming out. Obviously, Profar had a solid year last year in San Diego and has earned, the free agent contract that he got from Atlanta. But, Kelnick's one of those that hasn't quite risen to the potential.
Yeah.
That he was supposed to have. If you remember, he came from Seattle. Seattle was pegging him as their center fielder, left fielder, really, to kind of pair with Rodriguez out there. It didn't work out. And so, they moved on from him, and he's shown flashes where he's been really, really good.
He led off last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, you can't discount them. Anthopoulos knows how to cook. Like, it all goes back to Andrew Friedman, right? And all these, this sounds so bad, but all these underlings that served and learned from him on the Rays. And now Anthopoulos was a Rays guy.
Right.
Served under Chaim Bloom with St. Louis now.
Right.
The guy with, isn't the guy in Baltimore? I know he was part of St. Louis as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
they were all part of the tree.
Dude, those guys just build teams. Anthopoulos, knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But they've all have to perform, right? It's baseball.
Yeah. I mean, again, outside of maybe the Phillies, I think Atlanta's got the best shot at really taking over the East. If they perform, if they come back to what's going on in that regard. And I have the Phillies and another team later to be mentioned on this list, but one of them I think is a fraud, and we'll get to that. A little bit of a teaser there on that one. And so for me, the third team that I have here, and it kind of is a little bit of a pain in my chest when I even say this, but is the Cubs and what they were able to do. Obviously,
blasphemy.
Right. Obviously, the big deal in getting Tucker. I knew we weren't, as far as a St. Louis fan, that wasn't going to be an option for us, but I was really hoping he wouldn't find his way to the NL Central. But the fact that he did, I mean, the dude's a stud. I mean, he's an elite defender, an elite bat. Playing in Wrigley is only going to help him, especially on the plate side of things. That right field can get a little wonky, but he's the type of defender that can take care of himself out there, so I don't really expect a down year from him. There are some gaps and holes in the lineup for them that'll be interesting to watch. I mean, when you start to look at their lineup, can Michael Busch really put it together and play first base every day for them? Nico Horner, projected starter. He's kind of been up and down. Crow Armstrong, a lot of speed, great defender. Can he get on base enough for them? I mean, he's not going to lead off.
Same conversation as like Victor Scott with us.
Right. But then, Amaya as their catcher, there's some potential, like, if things go bad, it could go bad really, really quick for the Cubs. But if things are average or better, I mean, let's be honest, the NL Central is going to be the weakest division.
Yeah,
so it's really going to be an easy opportunity. I think outside of maybe the Brewers, the Reds could sneak in there as well. But I really think with what the Cubs did, they're able to do it. My big question mark is really going to be, can Shota and Justin Steele really kind of put together and become that 1-2 that they really need? And as the season go, who emerges to be that number 3? I know Assad's going to come back from injury. They got Colin Ray, who used to be a Brewer, over. He looks like he's trying to fill in that spot and take a starter role for them. But they're definitely going to need that third. And then I think an underrated signing for them is Justin Turner. Just for the leadership potential that he offers, the playoff teams that he's been on.
Yeah, but as a Mason Wynn fan, we can't really talk about him.
I'm not saying I like the dude. I just think, you can appreciate what he's been able to do in the game of baseball.
Yeah, those are going to be fun games to watch, by the way.
Oh, 100%, because I hope that when he's at St. Louis, right, and he's playing third and there's one dribbled down the third base line and he comes up and throws and doesn't get the guy out, that the fans yell, well, if you had an arm that could throw 100 miles an hour, you might have been able to get him out.
Yeah, or Mason Wynn beats him by a step with his arm.
Or Wynn just guns him at first.
So I'm going to comment on the rotation. I think it's a little better because we're forgetting about Jameson Taillon, who's a little bit of an underrated starter. And then, like you said, Assad coming back from injury. That's a pretty good 3 to 4 man in the playoffs. I just can't buy into the lineup.
Right.
Even Tucker, a stud, going to get paid like crazy.
And I don't think he'll stay with the Cubs.
Oh yeah,
I think he moves on.
I agree with you. Suzuki, man, it's really hard to figure out what he is because he shows crazy flashes of being like a stud hitter, but he only can do it in, short spurts. Ian Happ is a really good overall player, good defender. good hitter. Dansby Swanson just kind of an overrated bat to me. He's a elite defender, perennial Gold Glover, but like kind of an average 250 hitter. And then Nico Horner, maybe.
Right.
PCA, probably going to pan out. Just seems like a really talented kid. But Amaya, Matt Shaw.
Yeah, and Shaw's another one of the young guys. You don't know what he's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of high hopes there. I think that's another reason why they went out and got someone like Turner that can play third. He can play second. You know, you can mix him in where is needed.
Carson Kelly's a good pickup.
Yeah, I mean, so they've got, I think, you know, for Amaya and Kelly, they're going to battle it out all season. Really, it's going to be who's the hot hand now, and that's who you're going to kind of roll with.
Wouldn't surprise me if each of them have like 81 games.
Right. Just split it down the middle. Yeah. But again, neither of them really stand out as an elite bat. Carson Kelly just never has really developed that side. Yeah. You know, good defenders, which is what you need behind the plate. You know, there are some of their bench, you know, when you talk about Brujan down there that came over from Miami. Mm-hmm. It's like it's back to the conversation of high ceiling. There's a high ceiling for some of these guys. Yeah. But there's a really low floor too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. I mean, as Cardinals fans, it's kind of the same thing we talk about. Like, this could be a 90-win team or it could be a 70-win team. But the difference I think between the two, obviously Tucker is a way more guaranteed bat than probably. Well, I mean, I guess they're not obviously not the same hitter profile, but if you put Tucker and Wilson Contreras, two guaranteed hitters, right?
Right.
We have Arenado, who had a down year. What is his bat? You know, we don't know. He's probably their Suzuki bat. Potentially, obviously, has a much better ceiling, but we don't know what he's going to be. Right. But the rest of them, low floor, high ceiling. The difference between our two teams, I think, their pitching staff carries them, and it's so good. I remember in the summer when we were watching games last year, they had the best pitching staff in all of baseball for like 2.5 months straight.
Right.
But they weren't hitting, but pitching carries.
Right. Yeah, and that'll be the thing. And I think the Reds, you know, they're probably a year or two off. The Pirates kind of the same thing before they're really kind of going to settle in with some of their young talent. But again, those organizations, we kind of see what they tend to do. Maybe they'll surprise us. The Reds, not so much, but the Pirates tend to seem like they're going to make the turn and become, you know, at least somewhat competitive in the division and then somehow decide to sell off everything.
The only thing is the Reds. I don't think we can underestimate the impact of Tito.
That is true.
I mean, so I'm kind of the belief that a manager can only add like 3 or 4 wins, right? Like if you're looking at data sheets, the amount of WAR that they could provide for a team, essentially, they could probably only add at the highest ceiling possible, like 3 or 4 wins to the team. But a really seasoned coach and manager that can get young talent to perform, you never know how many wins that will add to a team. Right. And he's a winning manager.
Right.
And he's not going to come out of retirement for no reason.
No, I mean, obviously, I think he was coaxed out in a good way. I mean, anytime you talk about like Ellie De La
for a long time.
I mean, electric, right? They've got Hunter Green as a pitcher there in Cincinnati, which I think is going to develop really, really well and nicely. I think it's just those supporting pieces. You don't necessarily know what you have yet. They've got some good players. That's why I say, like, I would even say this about the Cardinals right now. You're still a year or two away from really seeing the potential.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Reds sit as well. And that's why they're probably not getting national love either in that regard. And again, we're talking way too early here, but man, they could come out and light the world on fire. We've seen young teams do it. I mean, look at what Arizona was able to do a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's not impossible. And I think that's why I love baseball. And you were talking about it earlier. A lot of things can look really, really good on paper. But when you start playing the games, that's when it really changes on a dime. And that's one of those teams. They get hot and can kind of ride that streak. Then they could make some noise. Yeah. But if I'm going to lay down money at the, sports book place, I'm not going to pick on them because it's too much of a risk right now.
Yeah. So let me throw a couple to you that I'm interested in. So first one is the Mets. I think they're a fake team. And I know that sounds so drastic considering they just spent so much money, but their roster just doesn't make any sense, and their rotation is so fragile in comparison to even the Cubs, who we just talked about. So I'm going to go over a couple things. Juan Soto signed there. Obviously, he was the big thing of the offseason. They gave him 15 years, $765 million. He's a below-average right fielder defensively. Obviously, perennial MVP bat.
Right.
He's the only active player right now with a career of 400 on base percentage, 400 plus on base percentage, which is ridiculous.
Right.
So obviously, he is the star. He is the biggest thing in hitting wise. They brought Alonso back and gave him an obscene amount of money. He was. He's a home run hitter, strikeout guy, but he'll play first base. Soto will be in the right field. They brought Manaea back, who was considered their ace last year, and he pitched really well. He changed his delivery angle, became a sidearm pitcher. I remember him talking last year how he wanted to emulate Sale's delivery, and did, and he got paid for it, but he did really well. And then they added Clay Holmes, who came over from the Yankees. They gave him 3 years, and they're taking him from the bullpen and putting him in the starter role. I don't discount those moves because Sean Manaea is a great starting pitcher. At least he showed last year that he can now be, because before he was kind of fallen.
Right.
Moving Clay Holmes to the bullpen, that doesn't seem like a stretch to me because David Stern is a stellar general manager, came over from the Brewers, and for some reason the Brewers have had the most broken on paper looking pitching, and it works.
Right.
And it wins tons of games. So he knows how to build a system that does that. He's also publicly come out and said he doesn't like spending money on pitching. So I'm interested to see their season. So let me pull them up. I just had it open and I lost it. Their team just doesn't make sense to me, because if you look at guys, I'm so sorry. I just had this pull up and now I gotta find it again. Here we go. If you look at their rotation, right now Sean Manaea is hurt and he got moved to the IL. Frankie Montas, who they signed, got moved to the IL. Christian Scott is on the IL. So the rotation right now is Kodai Senga, who we've heard rumors.
He's not completely healthy.
Yeah, he might not be healthy. His spring training slowed down. So past that, their rotation is David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Paul Blackburn, and Griffin Canning. Kind of aside from Clay Holmes, no-name-ish, mid-level pitchers. But you can't take out of the equation David Stearns. Knows what he's doing when it comes to pitching and putting guys in places. If Sean Manaea can come back, but he's slated not to come back until I think May now. And Frankie Montas is out for I think a while as well. So man, the rotation is just one more injury away from just being completely destroyed. If Kodai Senga can't pitch for a month or two, what's the rotation?
Right.
And then if you look at their lineup, it's super top heavy to me. Francisco Lindor, who's a perennial MVP candidate, obviously Juan Soto, one of the best bats out there. Alonso, I'm not a big fan of Alonso, but I mean he's a heavy home run hitter. He's gonna slug. Brandon Nimmo, who's kind of a fringe 110 OPS plus ish kind of guy. Mark Vientos, who was a rookie last year, played stellar late in the season and then obviously in the playoffs, but what is he? So, question mark to me. Jesse Winker, who is a question mark but performed. Alvarez, great catcher. McNeil, who I think's toast, in my opinion. Jose Siri hasn't hit well at all in the past few years. So it's just like, I'm not. I've way too many questions. Now, I mean, as a Cardinal fan, we have so many questions about our team. But when I look at this on paper, they're supposed to be like taking over the Phillies, taking over the Braves. Like, it's the Mets. They're the big spender, and they're just building a roster that is, the Dodgers of the East. It's not making any sense right now at all for me. Obviously, it's baseball. It's got to play out. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, when I kind of toyed with, the pretender for me, it's the Mets team as well. It's not because I don't like the direction that they're headed, but I don't see it all coming together either. I mean, when you talk about it, I think they've got some studs on the team. I mean, you mentioned them. One of my, favorite players right now that I'm watching is Francisco Alvarez. I do like him as a young catcher, what
great.
he's able to do. And so, I hope for success for him. But I think on some of the other sides, you're going to see regressions. I don't think Winker's going to be able to do what he did last year. I don't think that Vientos is going to do that. He could surprise me, and he could come out and really...
I mean, I got to give him credit. He's a clutch hitter.
Right.
Super clutch.
Jose Siri, it's more of a defensive prowess that you're going for there, kind of like the Harrison Bader of last year. For them, whatever you get from the bat is going to be a plus. And so it'll be interesting, but just like you, and I won't belabor the point, I have a lot of question marks around their pitching staff, both on the bullpen side as well as the starter. Outside of a few that you've already mentioned, I just don't know what they are, and that scares me.
Yeah, I feel like they're one of those teams, and I mean, it happened to them last year because they started the first couple months of the season just drowning. They're the team that's built right now to need some sort of magical chemistry to happen to make them go on a run. Now, it worked.
Right.
You can't, I mean, like you said earlier, baseball's a weird sport. A hot team could take out, one of the best teams in baseball like that. I don't know that it's the greatest way to construct a roster because it could also go the other way and they lose tons and tons of games. And I don't imagine that going well in New York. But that's one of those things like I have too many questions. If I were to put money into it, I would not bet on them. I would assume they're going to fall apart in some sort of way, but you never know. But I mean, you can't discount Juan Soto and what he does. I mean, think about what he meant to the Yankees last year. Judge hit how he hit because he had Juan Soto in front of him. Juan Soto hit how he hit because he was protected by Judge behind him. Juan Soto was always on base for Judge last year. So you never know what that can do, but Alonso is not Aaron Judge.
Not even close.
Yeah. The other team that I'm really paying attention to is Arizona. Man, I just think, they're so good. On paper, their rotation is stellar. So they added a big pickup for me, obviously, is they signed Corbin Burns. So they signed another ace, and they gave him a 6-year deal, and that's their biggest contract to date, I remember reading. But their rotation is Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Erod, and Brandon Pfaadt. Brandon Pfaadt, in his first season in the playoffs, I think in 23? Yeah, because that was the run, right?
Yeah.
Was incredible in the playoffs. Got blown up in the World Series at the end. I think probably ran out of gas as a rookie. Stellar. Merrill Kelly, really, really solid 3 pitcher. I would take him on the Cardinals as number 3. Corbin Burns is an interesting pickup and an interesting ace because obviously, he's got a Cy Young under his belt. He's been an ace his entire career. He's got some crazy stuff. All of his stats have dipped every year a little.
Right.
So you kind of wonder. It's kind of like the Bregman of pitching to me. Like every year he's gotten just like a couple % worse. It's not bad enough to not like guarantee that he's going to be good. But you never know what that's going to be like this year, next year, and then next year. But Zach Gallen, man, it's his free agent year, so he's going to pitch like crazy or go out and try and pitch like crazy. But their rotation's solid. Their lineup, Corbin Carroll, stud outfielder. Ketel Marte, MVP, probably the best second baseman in baseball, I'd say. Defensively, platinum glove, type player. Josh Naylor, who they pulled from Cleveland because they lost Christian Walker. Right. Good player, but you never know what he's going to do in that park. Arizona's a better hitter's ballpark than Cleveland was. Lourdes Gurriel, solid outfielder, man. Jake McCarthy is Eugenio Suarez, great hitter. Then Pavin Smith and Gabriel Moreno and Geraldo Perdomo. Perdomo is okay. Gabriel Moreno is pretty good. They're just a good team. Randall Grichuk on the bench, Jose Herrera on the bench, Kessinger on the bench. They feel more put together. If you think about the West with the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Arizona, and we're gonna not include the Rockies because nobody cares about them.
Right, they're gonna be a pincushion for the rest of them.
I would put the Dodgers in Arizona personally. And for me, the Giants and the Padres with their rosters right now, I'm teetering on picking the Giants, potentially. The Padres have lost a ton of players, and they're talking about getting rid of Dylan Cease, who is their ace right now.
Right.
But their farm system's depleted, so they got to rebuild it, and they don't have any money because all the drama with the owners. I don't know. I think Arizona is a sneaky, obviously everybody's a wild card because the Dodgers are going to win the division, but
right. And for me, I have them kind of on that fringe list. I do have San Diego there, probably ahead of the Giants, not because the Giants are that far gone. They've made some interesting moves, obviously getting Adames and some of those pieces that they've put together. Arizona would scare me 100% if I'm a team that has to play them because they've got it all. Mm-hmm. They've got speed. They've got a little bit of power. Definitely have the pitching side down, even in the bullpen. They're going to be a solid team, depending on what San Diego does, because there's still some studs on that offensive side for San Diego. You're talking about Tatis and Machado. They still got pieces. Bogart maybe on the back end of his career now. And then you talk about Merrill out in center field for them, a young stud in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not really ready to throw in the towel quite yet on San Diego.
Who's better, Corbin Carroll or Jackson Merrill?
I think Merrill has.
Yeah, I would agree actually.
Has the better height on that.
They're pretty close to being
right.
equal.
That's no disrespect to Carroll. Carroll is a stud. I would take him on any team. I would have no bones about drafting that young man. He is tremendous in what he does. Just what I've seen from Merrill, I think that is almost like another Bryce Harper in the weight.
Mm-hmm. So as I'm looking at this, I might. Okay, so Arizona's pitching staff is lights above.
Yes.
San Diego, which is interesting because they have Cease, King, and Darvish.
Yeah.
Which are really three great starters.
King emerged last year for them tremendously.
I would still say though he's still a question mark. He had a stellar 24 coming from the Yankees before that. Cease is I've wanted Cease on the Redbirds so bad. Okay, so let's do this real quick. San Diego. We'll do the top 5 hitters for each team. So Luis Arraez, who's potentially supposed to be traded.
Yeah, they've talked about that as well.
He's their leadoff hitter. Obviously the best average hitter in baseball, but one-tool player. So it's Luis Arraez, Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, and then Cronenworth or Bogarts. Jason Hayward is a pickup for them. Versus Arizona's Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Josh Naylor, Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Yeah, see, that's where it falls off. You get outside of Carroll and Marte, we don't know what Josh Naylor's going to be.
Yeah.
We don't know. Gurriel is a solid player. Again, I feel like I'm,
he's not a 4-hole hitter, but he's a solid player.
He's a solid player, but if you're telling me he's going to stack up against Manny Machado, I'm probably going to take.
Is another name that has to be the top 5 too.
I would take Machado over that. I think I'm taking, obviously, Merrill over Naylor.
Are you taking Tatis over Ketel Marte?
I am, That's me.
Really?
But that's me.
Whoa.
I am really high on Tatis.
Yeah, I know.
There's something about that kid that I really, really like. I like what he's able to do.
Man,
I think
he's so
he's a
young, too.
potential 5-tool player.
Mm-hmm.
And even with his frame, he has tremendous power. He hits the ball extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I would lean to that. The only one in this is I would take Carroll, obviously, over Arise.
Well, yeah, but just for the leadoff hitter. As a leadoff position.
Yeah. I might take Carroll. Here's where it gets a little crazy for me. I would take Carroll over Tatis.
Really?
Yeah, just because, I mean, if, again, this is just me being fun, and if, let's say I'm one of these teams.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go San Diego. If there was a world some way in the world that I could get Carroll, and I would have to move Tatis, and I could have Carroll and Merrill. That's a good one. Like, I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got both of them roaming the outfield plus both of their bats. Now, that's not a light
Merrill's
trade.
has a better defensive ceiling, which is hilarious because he's a shortstop.
Right.
Dude, I don't know. Ketel Marte is just, oh my gosh. Most underrated MVP player I think that we've seen. Not that he didn't come out of nowhere, but I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, nobody thought Ketel Marte would be like that type of bat. Now, he had an unreal season last year, so definitely has to repeat it again. But the type of player that he is, I feel like that's somewhat of a guarantee. Is guarantee as you could have.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's a player I would take in a heartbeat right now.
Yeah.
Just because of the quality of character that he is, the player that he is. But again, there for me, if I had to choose between him or Tatis, to me, I think Tatis still has the higher ceiling ultimately.
Yeah. Health though.
I still would take that gamble.
Yeah.
Because if dude is healthy, man.
That's fair.
If dude is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not denying how good
right
he is. Yeah. I want to do a wild card, but I think it's too close to a wild card pick for the National League, but I think it's too close to the start of the season and not enough information yet. So we'll save that for another episode.
Just hold that.
Let's swap to the AL. I know there's a lot of friends of ours that are have
ready for
AL
this.
teams. Yeah,
that's right.
Who you want to go first? I'll let you go first, then I'll do one.
Which way are we starting? So you would just want one team? It doesn't matter where.
Yeah. Let's do that.
I'll go with the team that I've kind of been enamored by from the beginning, even though some people aren't going to be happy with them, and that's Houston. I really, really just am digging what they have done in the offseason. It's not because I have an opportunity to just have connection with that organization or anything like that. I think the funny thing, like the fun of it right now is if you follow Altuve on any social media feed, the fact that he said he gave away his second baseman glove and he only has an outfield glove now.
He's a Hall of Famer in my book. I think he's just a great player and like a good personality.
Right. And so will he actually play left field? That's like, I really want to see that come. Like as an everyday left fielder, I want to see that happen. For me, obviously you talk about Alvarez and Christian Walker. They're two players that can carry that team offensively in a heartbeat. And so I'm not super worried about the offensive side for them. I think they've got some solid pitching. I think the back end of their starting rotation, there are some questions. I mean, again, I've talked about it already. You got McCullers, who's not going to be ready for at least probably till June, maybe even a little bit past June. Coming back after missing 2 years. He's got to build himself up. And so you have Aaron Getty and then Wisniewski that's going to have to kind of fill the back end of that role outside of you've got Valdez.
Yeah.
And then you've got Blanco.
Mm-hmm.
And then who am I missing?
McCullers? You counting him? Or is he on the IL?
No. I think he's out. So who am I
You
now?
got Hunter Brown and
Brown. That's who I was missing. Brown.
There's another kid, the kid with tattoos. He just pitched against us. I'm forgetting his name. I can
That's
look it
all
up
right.
while you keep talking.
Yeah. No big deal. But I think, So I think for, that side of things, they're just really intriguing to me. I think for what, they lost. I mean, obviously, you talk about Tucker. You heard us talk about him as a Cub already. I mean, that's a big hit. I think their outfield is going to be the big question mark because right now they're saying Chas McCormick's going to play right field. At least Fangraphs is projecting him in that spot. Jake Myers out in center, which is a good defensive center fielder, but I don't know what you're going to get bat-wise. And so maybe the thing that scares me the most is kind of what you said with some of these other teams like the Mets and some of that, is you get to the bottom half of their order, and can there be enough offense there to help kind of just retool and reset? Because when you look at their lineup, Altuve leading off, Paredes batting second, Alvarez in the 3-hole, Walker at the 4, Diaz, who's another young catcher that I'm just enjoying watching, and then Jeremy Pena, can he rebound? He was highly touted as a shortstop there for a while, hasn't really panned out for the team.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, there's a lot, and then you're talking about like Dubon, who's that utility player, and if you're St. Louis native and fan that you love, it's kind of that Brendan Donovan effect is what Dubon is. He can play pretty much anywhere for him. And then John Singleton is just that power bat off the bench.
Yeah, he's got to get better defensively, which he was talking about. They talked a lot about how he's been working on that this offseason. So a couple things with the rotation. Christian Javier just had Tommy John.
Right.
In June last year. So he's not coming back till June this year.
Right.
JP France is also a potential starter who he had a shoulder surgery in July last year. So he's probably not coming back until June, July this year. So they definitely have, and Lance McCullers.
Right.
He's been out, man, forever, since 23. It's crazy.
Right. 2 years.
So, I mean, even without the injuries, I agree with you. Their pitching staff's pretty stellar.
Right. Like, and that's the thing. So again,
and I mean, if you think about their lineup, probably has the best postseason history right now.
Right. And that's one of the things. Like, I just, I don't want to, ignore that. I mean, you put Walker and Paredes, who they got in that ballpark with the Crawford boxes, and their power numbers are going to go up, especially Paredes because he's a pull hitter.
Yeah.
And so that is just going to be tremendous for that young man. He may come out here and have that like blow up season that really you see his numbers balloon like crazy.
So they're super right-handed heavy. Do you think that's a problem?
I mean,
now, obviously Alvarez.
Right. It's gonna be. I mean, if you're getting,
but Gamble's their only other lefty.
Right. At some point, it is going to play.
Yeah.
But I think you're just banking on some of them because like Walker tends to hit both sides of the plate well.
Altuve as well.
Right. And so those are some of the things, like when they're a right-hander, it doesn't really scare me as much because these are proven guys that hit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what arm they're facing, they hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think this lineup's a little bit different than, per se, if you were talking about, again, I hate to keep bringing it back, but to the Cardinals, if they were really right-handed heavy, I'd be concerned.
Yeah, history's not there.
Or super left-handed heavy,
yeah.
I would be concerned. These guys, the history's there to say it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can't bet against Altuve. You can't bet against Alvarez. Diaz is obviously new. His last year was his rookie year. You don't know what he is, but man, he's hit super well so far. Had a 767 OPS last year. Christian Walker, pretty good. I wouldn't bet against him either. He didn't hit well in the postseason in 23.
Right.
So
that'll be
I don't think he saw the postseason in his career.
Right.
Maybe minimal. I can't.
Right.
Don't quote me on that. But
right. And the only really, and again, this is me. The only team in the West that I think scares them would potentially be Seattle, and we know their offense struggles tremendously, but they have a lights out pitching staff.
Okay.
So that would be the only thing that could potentially
they can't hit whatsoever.
Right. Like, I mean, we've seen it the last few years, and they really haven't addressed that on any level this year. And so, they talked about Castillo being traded to maybe find that bat for Seattle. Outside of Julio Rodriguez, they have no one that has stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
And so I think, for them, they do have a Rosarena now. I mean, they made that deal. So can him and maybe Cal Raleigh, their catcher, be like those sub players that potentially bring Seattle into the picture to challenge
Man,
Houston?
it's just tough because their ballpark sucks for hitting.
Right.
And they just don't have enough offense in general. Because what's his name? Who's the shortstop?
Crawford.
Yeah. I was thinking Brandon Crawford, but it's another Crawford. JP Crawford, thank you. He's kind of been like a letdown offensively, and they've needed him to not be. So he's got to figure it out.
Right.
They just don't have enough offense.
And they're missing, hint, hint, if anybody from Seattle is listening, they're missing that big left-handed power bat. I mean, they really, you look up and down their lineup, they have some potential right-handed. I mean, you talk about Rodriguez and even a Rosarena in that from the right side of the plate, it's there. But they don't have anybody that scares me from the left side. Now, Raleigh's a switch guy. So
they need more than that for sure, though.
Yeah, but he can't.
You think Josh Naylor would have been a good pickup for them?
I do. I think he could have played well.
That would have been a good trade.
But again, I think that ballpark is a scary place to play. It's very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah, the air, or not the air, but the climate, they've talked a lot about how the wind blows poorly in there. Alvarez would be a stud there, too. I disagree with Seattle being the... I think Texas is, which they're one of my picks I'll talk about later.
So go for it.
So I'm going to pick first. I'm going to talk about the Yankees.
Okay.
Who is Houston's rival, playoff rival. I akin the Yankees-Houston relationship to Atlanta and Philly. The Yankees have a really good record against Houston in the regular season, but cannot beat them in the playoffs, and vice versa with Atlanta and Philly. I think they're a little bit underrated. I know the Yankees missed out on Soto, but I think they got better without him. So they picked up Goldie. One of the issues that the Yankees had last year was their defense was atrocious, especially when it mattered. Picking up Goldie we're going to miss him in St. Louis. Obviously, he didn't hit well, and he's going to hit better in that ballpark, hit better with Judge, being in front of Judge or behind Judge, wherever he gets placed. Max Fried, great starting rotation pickup. One of the best pitchers in baseball the last 5 or 6 years. Not the greatest postseason stats. I gotta put that out there. But he will get you through and is an ace Cy Young caliber pitcher for the regular season. And you never know what he's going to be in a different rotation, him and Garrett Cole together, 1-2. Bringing over Bellinger was a great pickup for them, so they can keep Judge out of center field.
I have that written down as well.
Yeah,
keep him out of center field.
I think Bellinger in that ballpark, he would have had. I remember looking at stats, and this is like a generalization. It's not a fact. Don't quote me, but he would have had an extra like 10 to 12 home runs if he played in Yankee Stadium last year. Just his hitting profile, I think, is going to be a stud, especially in that park. And he's slated to be the 3-hole hitter because Judge wants to stay at the 2-hole, he said. So I think that's a really, really good pickup. And they added Devin Williams. They added a closer to pair with Luke Weaver, who turned himself around. Alan Jackson was a trade that they made with the Reds. They sent Trevino over there, and they got Jackson back. I think he's probably going to be a better backup catcher to Austin Wells. You never know what Austin Wells is going to do. His rookie season was great. Better second half hitter. Obviously didn't do well in the playoffs. Rookie year, probably flamed out, got tired. I think we discount, and I mean we're saying this also as Cardinal fans, but like Mason Wynn ran out of gas at the end of the year.
Right.
That's why he didn't hit. You never know if that impacted Wells. I mean, being a catcher and hitting really well is one of the hardest jobs in baseball. I think the biggest question, obviously, they have is third base. Between Oswaldo Cabrera, DJ LeMahieu, and Oswaldo Peraza. I know Yankee fans don't like not having, MVPs everywhere, and it's been touted about one of them getting Arenado. And him, obviously, he would hit really well there. If I were not a biased Cardinals fan, I probably would let Cabrera play there all year and just see what you have. I know the Yankees office doesn't like doing that, but they've got to let Dominguez play, and they got to let him go and stick him out there. I think they should probably do the same thing with Cabrera. I just think they got better. Their bullpen is Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, Hamilton, Cruz was a great pickup. Leiter Jr., great. They brought Tim Hill back. Tyler Matzik is potentially a lefty that could work his way into the roster. Their rotation is Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Rodon, who is he can be great, but he can also get blown up. Clark Schmidt, pretty good 4-5. I would take him. And then Marcus Stroman, I know they're wanting to get rid of him, but they gave him the weirdest contract of all time with those. What is that called? I'm blanking on the name. It's he's got to pitch a certain amount of innings.
Incentives?
Yeah, but I'm forgetting what the name is. I feel terrible. But if they keep him, I could see them moving him to the bullpen so they don't have to pay him because he's
right.
If he reaches 120 innings, he gets a guaranteed contract next year.
Oh, okay.
And it's an $18 million in 26. I think if he reaches 120 innings, so I could see them manipulating the contract.
100%, especially if they're trying to move him already, because obviously they want that spot to go to Luis Gil.
Yeah.
But he's dealing with some injuries, so they're probably going to have to stick with Stroman unless they can make a move and then maybe just allow somebody to come up and fill that spot.
Yeah, so Luis Gil's on the IL right now, but he's also throwing in spring. Stanton is having elbow tendonitis and is not scheduled to come back, I think, until May now or something. But if you look at their, if you include Stanton coming back, if you look at their lineup, it's Chisholm leading off, then Judge, Bellinger, Goldie, Wells, Volpe. They have Ben Rice as the DH, which is funny to me. Jason Dominguez, who just needs to be left out there and let play, and then Oswald Cabrera. Man, I think their roster got better. The rotation is pretty solid as well. And I mean, Stanton, great hitter. He's going to swing and miss a lot, but he's got the highest exit velocity in baseball. And if you put him in the playoffs, that's probably why he's injured. He's exhausted from carrying the team last year. The big questions I have from them is I looked this up. Their success last year is almost completely slated on the fact that their playoff path was against AL Central teams, and they got to avoid facing Houston in the playoffs. Kind of like the Braves, they have got to figure out a way to beat Houston in the playoffs, and then that would be, I think, their actual real perennial World Series contender. They are 41-26 all time against the AL Central in the playoffs. Since 2010, though, the Yankees are 14-29 against non-AL Central teams.
It's crazy.
So they cannot beat anybody outside of that division to get there. Obviously, they got to the World Series last year, and they played. If they didn't screw up defensively and the magic of Cortez and Freeman didn't happen, it would have been a competitive World Series because they would have won Game 1 and won Game 5. So you never know. But baseball happened the way it did. So I think they're a better team, but I'll be interested to. I'm definitely watching them more.
Yeah, my next team is just from the Central. I think it's the Kansas City Royals. I'll be interested to watch what they're able to do this year. I mean, obviously, we know what Witt is. They made a deal and got Jonathan India from the
great pickup
Reds, which I think he's going to thrive in that. Again, we know Salvador Perez is just a professional hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he does.
Bad framer.
Right. We're not going to talk about his defense all around, but he's just that. I think the big questions for me for this team is going to be, is obviously Bobby Witt's got to continue to lead the way, but Pasquantino, who's their first baseman, he's the one that they've held on to, that guy that they really want to buy into. He looks like he could be this stud of a hitter from the left side of the plate for them. He's really got to come into that this year.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see him take some big strides there. This team kind of strikes me, and it's going to sound really, really bad when I say it this way, but I think if you watch the movie, you'll understand. It's like The Sandlot, man. They're just, it's like they just throw a bunch of people together, but it just freakishly works.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Seth Lugo.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. I haven't even gotten to the pitching, but I think Reagans has to step up and really be that ace for them this year.
He was a stud last year,
right?
Too.
I mean, just be dominant this year. You got Lugo, you got Waka, which somehow dude just continues to do what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he finds ways to put up good seasons. Their back end, there's some questions there. Lorenzen, and I think it's Bubik.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely not one that I would say is World Series or bust at this point.
Yeah.
But I think, again, they get hot in the right ways. Their pitching comes together. The back end of their rotation, I mean, they've got Estevez away from Philly. They signed him as a free agent to be their closer. He was initially the one that was with the Angels. Had the really big year for the Angels. They've got some pieces. A guy I really like for them that they got from the Nationals is Hunter Harvey. In that, I think he could be a big piece out of the bullpen for them. So the pieces are there. It's just, again, this Sandlot mentality where can they all mesh together? Because on paper, yes, they've got players that are studs, but it doesn't look like they're going to all mesh together at the right time. And so they're definitely going to have to do that.
Carlos
especially,
Estevez?
yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And especially if you're going against the likes of Cleveland, even though I think they're down a little bit. Detroit's going to be interesting
what makes you
in
think
that
Cleveland's
division.
down?
Just some of the trades. They've lost some people. They've moved on from some people. And so Naylor's gone, not that those were key big pieces for them in the offseason, but they did make some moves. And so I just don't know that they'll be the same. I mean, Ramirez is a stud for them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that. They've got players. Kwan's still there. They've got some young talent there as well. But maybe I'm just a buy-in of what Bobby Witt's been able to do and just the fun he's having on the ball field. That
if it wasn't
just
for
sold
Aaron
me.
Judge, he was an MVP.
Right. It just sold me on the Kansas City taking that next step and at least putting themselves in the playoff mix this year.
Yeah. The only thing I give credit to the Royals. They're really attempting. They're spending money. Really attempting. They've got a great rotation. Their bullpen and back end of the lineup makes me ask questions. Man, I just don't know. Obviously, Cleveland hasn't won a World Series in 500 years. But man, their bullpen is just disgusting.
Sure.
And I think in this day and age in that game, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. I'll track with you. They traded for a lot of starters in the offseason I'm looking at. They gained Slade Cisaoni, Luis Ortiz, Josh Hartle, Michael Kennedy, Nick Mitchell. A couple of those are really young, but Slade, Luis, and probably just Slade and Luis will they'll probably start in the rotation because they're 26 years old. I don't know. I'm half and half between the Royals and Cleveland. And then you got the Tigers.
Yeah.
Three.
And again, I mean, because again, you talk about Skubal at the top there for them. They've got a couple other pitchers
Their
as
roster
well.
doesn't make sense either, though.
Right.
They figured it out.
So the Central, again, I think it's going to be the weakest of any of the divisions on both sides, unfortunately.
I think I might pick the Royals a little bit. It's just Cleveland's bullpen is just gross.
Right. But you got to get there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge.
Fair.
The starters are going to have to hold up.
They have a way better rotation
right
on paper. My next team, I got two more.
Go for it.
Boston is my next team. I've been obsessed with them, with the moves they made in the offseason. They added Walker Buehler to the rotation. They brought in Bregman last minute. They added Adam Ottavino to the bullpen. He's an NRI guy, so he might or might not make the roster role as Chapman. And as someone who wants to see 2001 to 2004 Yankee Boston ALCS games, to see Aroldis Chapman go into Yankee Stadium as a Red Sox, and just lights out crush would be peak entertainment. Peak entertainment. But also to see him just like airmail 105 mile an hour fastballs just everywhere.
Right.
Would be entertainment as well. Adding Matt Moore to the bullpen. Garrett Crochet is just, man, I'm so high on him. I wish the Cardinals would have done whatever they could to get him. Leading the rotation. Man, so the rotation is Garrett Crochet, Tanner Houck, who had a stellar rookie year last year. I think it was rookie year, maybe first year or second year. Walker Buehler addition. He's slated as number 3. Okay number 3 pitcher in the season, but man, in the playoffs, that dude's an ace. Lucas Giolito, great pickup. Brian Bayo, who was supposed to be their ace last year, but now he's number 5. Cutter Crawford, when he comes back from injury, great rotation, great depth as well.
I mean, they did a great job of retooling their pitching staff.
They really did. Adding Liam Hendricks as well. So a problem they had is back into the bullpen last year. They added 2 closers. Again, you never know what Chapman's going to be. The super big wild card. Liam Hendricks, though, when he's healthy, fantastic. Their lineup, we're looking at Jarren Duran, who is one of my favorite players. Rafael Devers is great. Bregman behind Devers is going to be
That's going to be big.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty big. Tristan Casas, if he can stay healthy, man. Yoshida is kind of mid for me. They probably would rather get rid of him if they could, but no one wants to take him. It's a weird contract. Trevor Story, I mean, he's just got to stay healthy before anything. Connor
just
Wong,
play defense and stay healthy. Story.
Yeah. Connor Wong, I think, is more underrated than people give him credit for. I know he came over in the deal from Mookie Betts, so I think he's probably got a sour taste for Boston fans. But I think his offensive profile is awesome. He's got to work on his defense. And Rafaela, man, center fielder. If that was my center fielder, I would be super happy. Man, I just think they got in the AL, they got the most better. However you would say that. I think they made the most improvements in the offseason in the AL. And I remember listening to Talking Yanks reiterate it a couple weeks ago. I think they are the most scariest team for the Yankees to play and face off against. And again, peak entertainment would be seeing those two teams in the playoffs against each other somehow.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
I think the AL East is going to be the toughest AL side. Just because of the slate of teams. You know, you talk about Boston, New York, Baltimore, Toronto could even sneak in there to some degree. I think Tampa Bay is what it is at this point, especially because they're going to be playing in a minor league ballpark for the majority of the season.
But Tampa could also Tampa, you know?
Right. That's why I say it'll be the most competitive, I think, as far as the divisions.
I'm not high on Baltimore for some reason. I don't know why.
I think Baltimore took a step back this year than where they were last year. You know, again, they could sneak something out. I mean, as far as their lineup, I don't think they lost a whole lot there. I mean, Santander leaving was a big deal, especially because he ends up in Toronto.
Yeah.
So it's an inner conference or division battle there. It pains me to say this, but I think Tyler O'Neill in Baltimore is good. They moved the left field fence
with
back
the adjustments
in.
to it, yeah.
So it's going to be a hitter-friendly ballpark again. I think he could provide power that they're missing from the right-hand side. Yeah, I think that's the biggest scare point because you let someone like Burns walk and there was no replacement for that. They really haven't done anything outside of their free agent Japanese signing in Tamayoki.
Yeah, underrated pickup.
Right.
That could be.
It could pan out really, really well. They've got him slated as 5.
Is he an ace in a playoff game, though?
I mean, we don't know. We haven't seen him.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I would say no. I mean, you look at their rotation, they say it
He doesn't
this
have
way.
to be. That's true.
Eflin, Rodriguez, Morton, Kramer. And yeah, so doesn't give me a lot of hope, especially because that's where they struggled last year, too. The offensive side, I mean, obviously, when you got Rutschman, Henderson, so it's Henderson, Rutschman, Mullins, Westberg, Cowser, O'Neal, O'Hearn, Mountcastle, and Holiday.
Well, the interesting thing is, their offense fell off like crazy last year too, and that's what made their playoff run just diminish.
Right.
Is they just stopped hitting. I think Rutschman got tired. They made him catch too many games, and I know that's an adjustment they're making this year is he's going to DH more. I don't know, man. They're just not supplementing that young talent very well, especially with pitching.
Right. But, and I guess this is the thing, like in the East for me, if one team goes on a run while another team just hits a bad stride, you could switch positions in a heartbeat in the East. You could go from being, let's say, right behind the number one team to the fourth team. In a hurry, depending on the way things work out in the East if a team gets hot. Now, again, that's not my projection. My projection, I lean towards you. I think it's going to be Boston and the Yankees driving things the more and more I see it. But again...
Yeah, because if you think about it on paper, who's a better team, the Red Sox or the Orioles?
Oh, the Red Sox by far for me.
So the Yankees won 94 games last year. Orioles won 91.
Right.
Red Sox won 81. Out of all of them, who improved the most?
It was the Red Sox.
Red Sox.
By far.
How many wins do you think they added by that? Probably 10?
Close to. So, I mean, you're talking shy of 100 wins, potentially.
Did Orioles do enough to maintain?
No, that's why I say I think they're going to fall back a little bit. So I think you're looking at potentially a 90-win team out of Baltimore, maybe even a little less than that.
Which, I mean, that puts them all in a race.
Right. And that's what I'm going with. Like it's a race here for me in the East. I mean, there are some other good teams, obviously, that are going to be a part in other divisions. But as far as the closeness of the division, I think it'll just be the AL East for me. It'll be a fun one to watch. I do not, so we're going with your final team here.
My last team is Texas. I'm a big fan of Texas. Obviously, they had the hangover last year from winning in 23.
And that's a real thing.
It is a real thing. I think some interesting moves. Their rotation is wild, but super health dependent. Obviously, when healthy, DeGrom is the best starting pitcher in baseball. To keep him healthy for 162 plus a postseason run is almost impossible.
I was getting ready to say, when's the last time you remember him pitching a full season?
21 maybe? 22? Eovaldi though, I would put put money on him.
Absolutely.
DeGrom, John Gray is Tyler Mahle could be, you never know, 3 or 4. Cody Bradford. So the the rotation is a little thin. And their bullpen is which I know bullpens in the playoffs wins games right now. So, which makes me have a lot of little faith, but it's their offense that is just, and that's how they won in 23. Their offense carried them. They just outslugged everybody. So it still is built like that. But the thing is, if they can get to the end with DeGrom healthy and Eovaldi healthy, and they'll add a starter, which is what they did in 23. Sneaky. Lineup, Semien, Seager, Langford taking another step.
Yep.
Jock Peterson, who is a left-handed bat in that ballpark, has like almost a 900 OPS against righties, which that's all he's ever going to do. He's just only going to hit against righties. He's going to get replaced right away. Garcia, man, clutch. Josh Young, great third baseman. Evan Carter. Jake Berger, sneaky pickup. Jonah Heim catching. Higashioka on the bench as a backup catcher. Ezekiel Duran. Josh Smith, who's probably the starting first baseman in my opinion.
I still think it'll be Berger just because of the power potential.
I mean, Josh Smith has power potential though. He hit great last year.
29 home runs, great.
Let me confirm that. I'll look up while I'm finishing. And then Leody Taveras, great. You know, is he the starting infielder? Is he the backup? Doesn't matter. Great.
That's going to be if Carter can stay healthy. If Carter can't stay healthy, Taveras is going to take center field. I mean, those two are kind of like in that Ciani VS2 battle. So
Josh Smith hit 13 home runs last year, played 149 games, had a 337 OBP, 394 slug, 2.8 WAR. Yeah, maybe. You might be right.
Right, because, I mean, okay.
It was his rookie year, though.
Right. No, I don't want to take anything away from him. I'm not saying he's a bad dude.
20K%.
But you're talking about they brought in Jake Berger, and he's slated there. So last year, you look at his numbers in 137 games.
Yeah.
He was 250, 301 on base, a 460 slug.
Wow, super underrated.
Right, 29 home runs. So, like,
that's okay. I'll give that to you.
That's
you
that's
countered
why
me.
I think he's on the bench, and Berger's going to get that nod at first, unless the defensive issues become a major deal.
Jake Berger,
the St. Louis boy.
I know. So on paper, their pitching looks like it's kind of atrocious, but I don't know, dude. Their lineup is one of the, in my opinion, like top 3 in the AL at least.
Right.
Like if you think about a complete 1 to 9 lineup, aside from maybe Houston, who I still don't think he would come close to that. They probably have the best lineup in the AL, complete 1 to 9. Yankees are more top heavy. Houston's top heavy.
Sure.
But 1 through 9.
Oh, there's no doubt.
That won't give pitchers any break.
Right. If you're talking about the West, the best lineup in the West, absolutely.
Yeah. Pitching? No.
Right. And that's what scares me.
But that's how they won.
I mean, that is just, man, if they just had 2 outside of DeGrom.
About the rotation, what's crazy about the rotation is they have one of the best starters in baseball, but he is always hurt, so you can't bet on it.
Right.
So yeah, I think you're right. If they had a Max Fried, a Corbin Burns, like another stud pitcher, I think that would elevate them. But there's 1 through 5 rotations. There's so many better.
I mean, I feel like they tried to address the bullpen. Luke Jackson coming over from Atlanta as a free agent. Chris Martin coming over from Boston as a free. I feel like they tried to address it, but will it be enough?
Shawn Armstrong holding down the fort.
Right. That scares me.
Yeah.
If I'm a Texas fan.
I think the thing is the AL is just so weak right now in general that there's almost very, very, I mean, what is it? 3 AL Central teams made it last year. Yeah, I don't know. Their lineup just, it makes me want to bet on them. Pitching, yeah, obviously. But I don't know. That's how they won in 23. They got lucky. They got hot. And baseball is baseball sometimes. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening and hanging out with our chat, guys. If you have anything that you want to ask, any questions, throw them out there.
Let us know your picks. Who's your top runners? Yeah,
if you think all of our ideas are terrible, let us know in the comments. We love discussing. We just love ball. We love talking ball. So yeah, if you guys want to hear any players or any other things for us to bring up or talk about, let us know in the comments on YouTube. And from us at Who's on First, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.